Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Historical Commission meeting. It is Tuesday, December 17th, and it's 6:30. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Can I please get a roll call?
Joyce Roderick's present.
Rick Mancini, present.
Connie Soul. Kristen Cantara-Alvarado.
Larry Dykes.
Ruben Amaral.
Patty Rigo.
Okay, we have a full house tonight. Okay, so moving on, general business. I have the minutes from September 17th.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next are the minutes from October 15th, 2019. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Are you keeping minutes because Carrie's out? Okay.
That's right.
Thank you. So the first correspondence we have on our agenda, and the email is in your packet, is from Little Theater. And they're looking for a letter of support for the current CPA application. So it does talk a little bit about what they're gonna do, which is repairing and restoring the original slate roof and rebuild and restore the hose tower cap. So this is a continuation of what they've already done. They've already done some work and they've come before us before and we've supported their application before. So they're looking for a letter of support for their new project.
I make a motion that we give them a letter of support.
I second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I'll get the letter. Next up, we have Chris Gallagher. And he's requesting letters of support for some of his current CPA projects, which he has passed out some information on. So I'm gonna turn that over to him.
So the one that you have is a packet that I've given everyone.
Sorry, can you just,
Oh, I'm sorry. Chris Gallagher, I'm the Director of Facilities for the City of Fall River. I'm going to CPC for funding to do a little restoration project on the Warman House on Kennedy Park, as well as the gatehouses at Oak Grove Cemetery. Starting with one of the packets that I handed out to everyone was the Warming House in Kennedy Park. What I'm looking to do is rebuild the top portion of that. I believe some of it had got burnt out quite a few years ago. Burnt some of the wood, it was kind of set on fire. Some of it's deteriorating, rotting away. We board up the windows, but some of the framing, since the roof has been open for so long, around the top is rotting, and eventually it's just going to collapse. And before that happens, we'd like to go in and kind of restore the top portion of that back to its former glory. With that, we're also looking maybe to kind of maybe fill in the basement, at least the basement stairwell. There was some bulkheads over it, they broke into it several times. There was a wood structure over it, they broke it off several times, it rotted off several times. So we would like to maybe just block in the doorway and fill in the stairs with an infill of maybe a flowable fill or something that way, and if we ever wanted to get back into that basement, we could. What we're maybe possibly looking to do with this structure, I don't think it will ever become a set of bathrooms again or a warming house again. What we may be looking to do with the structure for the future is a full electrical area, or area that we could put panels in. We have some poles and things like that you see for where they do the feasts and things like that up in the park. You have all the poles up there. So anytime you want to go for any park grants or anything like that in the future, they're requesting that no more overhead wires to be in the parks. So we could actually take this building and actually put the panels inside of this building, and then put some sort of small structure on the outside that they could actually tie their power into to bring it out to their feasts and things like that, and with some sort of mobile units or whatever. And that way there we can kind of take down the big power and wires and that, and all the telephone poles that you see throughout that park and that general area, that kind of feeds the feasts and other events that happen up there. So I'm looking for a letter of support, so that I can go for some funding, to at least rebuild and start the first phase of this. It may happen in a couple of phases, and again, I'm going to get with the park board and see some of what their actions are and what they'd like to do, as far as us turning it into an electrical hub for that park. In that area, but kind of bring it back to its glories. If we put windows back in it where they are now, bring it back to its historic look. We'll like Lexan the glass and stuff so the kids can't break the windows and things of that nature. We'll try to make it a little bit more vandal-proof, if you want to call it, but you know, and we'll just kind of bring it back to its former glory.
I make a motion to grant a letter of support.
I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
I also make a motion to take out of order, since Chris has ordered.
Oh, wait, he has one more.
Oh,
Oh.
sorry.
I have more. So,
You're just full of it.
yeah, they just keep coming.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Just one question, I
Shoot.
should have got to it before we stopped the motion, but are we gonna get a chance to review that building?
Yes, and again, this letter of support so that I can go for some funding and that. I'm working along with the architect and stuff. So before any of this actually, and I'll explain the same thing to the park board, before it actually goes through and fully, either whether we send it out to bid or we're building it in-house or whatever we're gonna do, the set of plans that have drawn up and stuff, I'll come back to the board, let you see it, give any suggestions, any changes, things like that. I'll be doing the same thing with the park board. I'll actually be trying to get Ms. Smith involved in the actual designing of it and stuff like that, because there's always been some issues with the park board for on my side and things like that. So I've been trying to get them on that line of with what they want and how I can get in that phase for them. And so we'll try to work together in what we're going to do, what they will allow, what they won't allow. Ultimately, it's their park. So we'll go through that and bring up what they have, and we'll go from there. And again, we'll come back to the board, let you view the plans. If there's something you see that you want to change, we can make some changes before we put it out there and where we are. And we'll do that with every project that we have that's going to be under historic preservation.
Because I know, like, Civitech, I know they're really well aware of what the Secretary of Interior standards are.
Yep.
I know for this, the warming house you're working with, Stark, so I think they're a little, sometimes not always quite.
Well, they're pretty good because they did Bank Street Armory, they did a full study, and when I was doing a study, I just did a study on the park office because I want to bring that back to its former glory as well. So I did just a feasibility study. I had gotten a grant from MHC, is it, the state? So they gave us a grant, and I was working with a gentleman, Mr. Eccles, and he went through the plans with a fine-tooth comb and stuff like that. So he liked what we did over at Bank Street and what Stock did for a study on Bank Street. So, I mean, he's got quite a few page study on that.
I had a couple of, like, someone from there had called me one time with a couple of questions about some of the historic stuff, so I was.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good staff over there now. It might have been when they were a little bit on the staff, but he's pretty good also in the historic preservation part. He knows pretty much what Secretary of Interior wants. He contacted him. We actually worked right along with Tracy Fortier when we rebuilt the chimney, and she's from the Historic Commission in Boston. And, you know, she came down all the time. We worked directly with her, with Stock Architects. They're the ones who did all of the chimney and that roof part there. So they did an outstanding job of what they did over there for that portion. So they've got a pretty good handle on that. I feel now I do like working with Mike Keene on especially these specific things, especially what Mike is on cemetery and stuff like that. So he may be a little bit more but there's certain ones that I can give to certain architects. I
No,
try to
that's good.
try to pick out which one is, I think is the best one for the job and
Yeah.
stuff like that, so. There is only one book, I just got that book, today, so didn't have a time to make a copy. I'll make some more copies for the rest of the group, to give to you. It's a whole study. Mike Keane did it. It's got photos, it's got everything. Again, we're gonna do this again in phases. I don't think, because the price tag, I think, is gonna be somewhat hefty. We're gonna do just like we did the gates themselves, where we repoint the outside of the building, redo all of the windows, do the terracotta roofing, all of that stuff, try to get it all weather tight. It's pretty good. There's not really any leaks per se, maybe around some windows and things like that. There's some interior damages from termites and stuff like that. We've had it a few times with a Flint Pest Control, go out there and sprayed and things like that to try to keep it at bay until we can actually get into start doing a full restoration in it. So right now, I think we're gonna go kind of as much as we can for what will be allowed by CPC, but really we're gonna concentrate on the exterior of it and then get into the interior. There's been some talks about what right now, across from the office, is kind of a break room. I'm trying to go with some money to go and build them a new facility, a small garage and a break room, office area down at the Bullock Street yard that they have off of Oak Grove, and then turn that break area that they use now and turn that into some sort of maybe like a gift shop or something where people can go and see where Lizzie Borden's parents were. They did the autopsies there and stuff, and give them, you know, some photos of what's the cemetery itself and areas where there's key spots in the area where particular people are buried and things like that. So I think it'd be a good fit for that cemetery. A lot of people visit that cemetery. It's got a lot of history. I've been up there quite a few times. A lot of students come through to do papers and things like that. So this would be a great starting point for them. So if we can refurbish this and that and build that building, we can kind of get them out of there and now utilize that building probably what it should be for, you know.
And that's a great idea.
Yeah, I you know, it's come up several times about that, so I think it's a real good idea to do that, you know.
The columbarium area looks really nice.
Yeah,
It does.
oh
It
yeah.
really does.
Yeah, Chris Pirano did an outstanding job up there. I give a lot of credit to John Perry and his crew and Chris Pirano. They're doing a really good job up there. I know we had some issues at the beginning, but I think it's just turning out to be a great thing going on up there.
I was going by, because I'm not far from this, so I would go and check out the progress, and at first, when I first saw it, I couldn't figure out how it was gonna be, and then I saw the cobblestones going in, and this looks really nice.
Yeah, they're doing a real nice job up there. They got a pretty good crew up there too, trying to take care of the land up there and stuff like that. A lot of things, again, you know, you don't have all the equipment that you need, and, you know, we're getting there. Everything is slow. Municipalities don't move quickly, you know. But, you know, we've done a lot in the past 3.5, 4 years. We've kind of taken over, and we've been doing quite a bit. So, like I said, I just look for the letter of support. We're going to try to do it, and when it all comes to fruition and the plans and all that, we'll sit with the boards and things like that and let them look at the plans, let them pick any things that they see. We can go back to the architect, let him know what the board's like, and we'll go from there.
Good.
Anybody have a question?
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for?
I don't know. I appreciate the way you're working toward like a better form of collaboration, even though a lot of times things happen in the past, but this is the future,
Yeah.
this is now. so I
It
appreciate
happens,
it.
and it's still a work in progress. We still got a lot to do, you know, and we want to try to get to that point where it just becomes a second nature. We can
Yeah.
all work together, and that's basically what it comes down to. We just got to be able to work together to accomplish what we all want.
That's great,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion to give him a letter of support.
Now. I will second that motion now.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I'll
so
also
you can
make a
have two
motion
letters.
to take out of order in the new business, since Chris is here already, in the new business, and bring it up
7B.
Yep, 7B, and bring it up now.
Sure.
Okay. So
So I make a motion.
I have a motion to take 7B out of order. Do I have a second? Okay, So motion and a second. So what he's gonna be talking about are some of the things that he wants to do at the public library, so. Back over to you.
So at the public library, we have completed the roof. It's been totally completed, haven't had any issues, and knock on wood. We've done a lot of the restoration inside, still in progress. We're still doing some more, and we're doing a little bit extra work that we can do while we've got the group there doing the work and the painting. So it's actually coming out really, really nice. It seems that the trustees are really enjoying it. I wish it could go a little bit faster, but we're doing some lighting too in there. We're changing that to brighten it up and things of that nature that we're doing in there. While we're doing this, you know, we've been through the building and stuff like that. We've been looking at, we'd like to paint the windows. The windows are quite faded. I have some little bit of areas where I might have some leaks. It seems that when they put the windows in and they trimmed them out, they didn't caulk them around the edges. So where the wood meets the brick, they didn't put any sealant in around it, and it seems that if I get a driving rain, I get a little bit that comes in from the windows. So I'd like to be able to seal around the windows, and then I'd like to paint the windows, but they're all faded. So before we just go and paint and try to match what we think is the color, we'd like everybody to look at it. We can all try to make a choice, maybe work with the trustees as well, and any other boards that they may have there, and that we all come up with something, you know, maybe do some sample colors and stuff like that and see what it's going to be like. And my guys will go out there and hopefully this spring, and we'll start, you know, doing some of the upper levels. We're going to rent a lift. We're going to rent a lift. One of the main things we're going to rent the lift for is because we're going to take all the trees out of Bank Street Armory's facade. So why we had that lift, and since it's, you know, we have to pay for the trucking to get it there, we figured we could get all of the windows that we can reach with that lift, and then the lower stuff we can handle either off the scaffolding or bucket trucks and things of that we have. So we want to do that. One of the other things that I'd like to do is I have some issues with some transients are homeless, you know, in areas of the building, and stairwells and things like that. So there's some areas I'm looking to fence in. I also have, you know, people walk by with dogs and things. We have a thing there for them to pick up what the dog may leave behind, and some use the bags and some don't. But some of it's in the children's area where they read the books and all of that stuff to them. So if you've ever seen the Elm Street side with that wrought iron railing that comes off the building, I would like to continue that around the book drop-off, take that whole grassy area right around to the parking lot, to the back of the building and up to the building. So I take that whole grassy area and kind of fence it off. Obviously, I'd have a gate so we can get people in and out, and a gate so that my guys can get in there and cut the grass with the lawnmowers and things like that, but try to now minimize people with the dogs and some other people hanging out there during the day and things like that, that they'll stay out of that area. And then on the far side of the building, when you look at the front of the building, on the south side of it, there's a big tree, and it's between the brick building and the I'd like to fence that area off, because I have people that like to go back in there at night and things like that. So I'd like to be able to keep them out of that area as well. Again, I would have a gate so we have access to cut the grass and things like that and maintain it, so it wouldn't be like an area just would overgrow. It would still maintain the way we do now, but being able to fence it off so that we don't have people going into that area where they shouldn't go. You know, we've had signs, we've had security kick them out and stuff. It's just an everyday fight. So it's easier if we just put up a fence that looks like the one that we have there, kind of is a little historic and that, then, you know, we can maybe add a little bit more design to it if we need to, and just kind of stop some of that traffic that we don't need to go in there. And then that way there, it just keep it a little nicer and keep them out of areas where they really
So
don't
you're gonna
belong.
continue with a wrought iron?
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same fence that they have coming off of that Elm Street side. Something pretty much similar to what's there, and that's all wrought iron or steel welded type fencing. And I would continue that look right around and follow it right to the backside to the parking lot, and then on the front side I would do the same fencing and just go from building to building. And that way there, just kind of keep anybody from going into that back area. There's some lighting there, there's cameras there, but it just doesn't seem to deter it and stop it. So this way here, it'd be a little more difficult for them to get through. They would have to climb it, which would be a little difficult on that style of fence.
On the wrought iron.
One of the other things,
What was the width of those rails?
Well, the width of those rails, and when that was put in, I don't know the coating in that, but I don't know if that becomes something for fencing. So I would look with the building inspector and stuff like that, and we could close that up a little bit so it'd be a little bit tighter, so we wouldn't have a child putting their head through it. And we could probably add, at the same time, we could probably add some to the fence that's existing there.
That and the animals too, if you're concerned with the droppings, you want to make sure that that railing is tight enough.
Yeah, they can't take the little dogs and put them through.
And the height too, so that they're not over the.
Over it, yeah, and the one that's on the Ellsbury Street side is yeah, it's high, it's 4.5, almost 5 feet. I'm not looking to do 6 or 8 footers, but 4.5, 5 feet, it's a little tough to get over on that style of fence. If it's a chain link, a little easier in that. And I am also looking to do a chain link fence, and again, this is all going towards hopefully the summer. In the back parking lot, it's got that old concrete guardrail, white wood fencing that it's all dilapidated, the concrete's all broken, you can see the rebar coming through. I'd like to take that out of there, compact or fill that in either with asphalt or gravel, put a nice black vinyl chain link fence that divides the library and Bank Street Armory. I'd actually put an opening on the end where the Bank Street Armory is on the far end, because then it would allow anybody that parked on that side right now, why Bank Street Armory is not being used, to actually come into the library side and walk through. But it would deter a lot of the cutting through traffic and stuff like that, especially with the dogs, because I would like to bring that fence down around the tree that's at the beginning of the driveway and right back to Bank Street Armory, because I have people behind the shed that's there, they sit on the stairs that's there, people dump trash over there, so that would help me kind of slow some of that down, and kind of cut down some of that traffic over there as well. Being that it's on the Bank Street Armory side and it's just in the parking lot area, I was just thinking of just a black vinyl chain link fence for now until we come up with some more plan for Bank Street itself, things like that, and what we might want to do to go forward. So I come to the board and ask for any suggestions you might have, anything that you want to give. I can also have the fencing, and that what we'll do is kind of draw it up a little bit so you kind of see what it is. And we can just go from there. And like I said, I think we'd like to get maybe a couple from this board, is maybe sit with the trustees and go to one of their meetings, or they can come to one of these meetings, and we can kind of work it out. We'll get some sample colors, and then we can kind of sit and talk and see what we can come up with before we get to the point of building fences and things like that.
That would be great.
Yeah. So it's time. I don't know if anybody's been to the library and seen some of the work, but yeah, it's getting there. It really is. It's getting there. Yeah. So
But
we'll
I
be there.
think I've also seen some of these issues that you're talking about, with why you want to do that.
Yeah.
again,
And especially the kid area where they read the books and stuff like that in the springtime and stuff. Sometimes they can't go out there because they really made a mess of it and stuff, and that. And it's a shame, but it happens. And it's not everybody. It's
Right.
the few. So.
But I think another issue too is like this, there are people who stand there and smoke, in that whole area, even if you're around the corner. I brought my daughter, and ordinarily it's not, you live outside and it's a city, and I get it, but when there's a couple people congregating, it is quite.
Yeah, we try to get security and stuff. They've had
It can't be everywhere all the
they've had
time.
the offices there a few times and stuff, and do rounds, and every once in a while they'll bring them in and stuff like that, try to deter it. But you'll find that in a lot of cities. If you go to their main libraries, you'll see it. It's usually all, it seems to be that area. It's got a hub for internet for them. It's public. It's a public building, and
Places to
they have a reason, but the loitering part of it, they shouldn't be there. So it's like, be a little more respectful. Whatever you want to do, go down the street, go away. You can come back and sit and read a book. God bless you.
That's the thing, it's not so much the loitering as it is
The
what they're
activities.
leaving behind.
Behind the trash and that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
That sounds good. So when you get in touch with the board of trustees, just let me know, and then we can, have a couple from our board, either meet with them or they come here, or whatever talk to them, see what they want.
yeah, well, I'll get with the administrator over there, Leanne. I'll get with her. We'll sit, we'll talk, we'll see what we'll do. Let me get me some paint samples and stuff, and maybe what I'll do is even actually paint up some of the wood and stuff like that. We'll paint it up and stuff like that, so we'll actually see physically what it's gonna look like. You put it on paper or a paper chart, it's not really giving you that visual. And when you look at it on the outside, we have a It's a little laser, it's a light that you can stick to the window. It takes, almost like when you go to Home Depot and stuff, but it's a mobile one, and it's an app, and it'll get us very close to what that color is, and then we'll paint some up, and we'll see. And if everybody's in agreement, then we'll try to shoot for that for the springtime and summer,
Awesome.
okay?
As long as it doesn't look like the windows on the children's museum.
Yeah, we won't paint them
I
multicolor.
like it, but I know it's some people don't
No, I
like
don't
it.
like it.
No, I know.
Yeah, but like, that's why I say,
It's
one
not
of,
on the historic
Yeah.
building.
the color that's there seemed to be a nice color, it's just kind of
Yeah.
faded right down, so I don't remember it being, whatever original color it was. And even when you open the windows, it's like they painted it, and it was probably factory when they bought the windows that way, and or replaced them or whatever that they did to them. It just seems that it's right at the outer edge. There's like no color on the inside. The inside is all stain or shellac from back in the day and stuff. And we're gonna like to do something to the inside of it eventually, to the inside of the windows. The sun is kind of really faded out all the sills and stuff like that. So eventually we want to clean them all up. One of the carpenters on my team, he's very into historic, he's into the old stuff, so, you know, when he went in there, he was amazed with it, because he had never been in there. So he's gone there a few times, a couple of classes he was taking, he went there to study and stuff, so he likes it, so he wants to go in there and do some of this work, so, makes him happy, so, go ahead, have at it, right? Yeah, no? Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you
no,
very
thank you,
much, too.
have a good night.
I'll have those letters for you, like, you know, before
No,
the-
no hurry, yeah,
before
they're not
I
until
know when to
January,
do-
I
yeah,
think 15th is when,
15th, yeah,
thank you.
before that.
Have a good holiday.
You too, folks, thank you.
Okay, so moving on, we have Charles and Gloria Jacobson had requested a letter of support for their current CPA application at 77 Freedom Street. Again, it's just a continuation of the restoration of the old fire and police station. And they had gotten funding to do one part of it, and now they're looking for funding to do a little bit more on that. So basically, it's, you know, same project that they presented to us, just a different phase of it, so they just want another letter of support for that.
I motion to give them a letter of support.
Okay, I have a motion, do I?
A second.
I have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, next. Find this in here, so, city council resolution to discuss and review current city ordinances pertaining to historical owned properties. So we had, and I don't know if he wants to come down or not, but Alex Silva from the Preservation Society had come to us. And the Preservation Society was gonna be petitioning the city council, about the historic city-owned properties and how there's only a 6-month demolition delay, and also, because of things that happen with the boarding school, and there not being, preservation restriction deeds put on things when the sales are happening. So they had asked us to, send a letter of support. And they went to the city council, and the city council, had sent us a resolution that says, whereas there are many historic buildings throughout the city, and whereas several of these buildings are city-owned, and whereas there should be careful thought and consideration into the use, resale, and/or sale of these properties, and whereas the Historical Commission and Preservation Society have provided input on appropriate guidelines to consider, now therefore be it resolved that the Committee on Ordinances and Legislation convene with Corporation Council, the City Administrator, along with the chairs or representatives from the Historical Commission and Preservation Society to review our current ordinances and discuss any possible amendments. So, that was referred to ordinance, and I believe that that's going to be taken up after the new year, once the new members are sworn in, and we have a new mayor as well. I think right now they
Because
kind
the
of,
timing.
yeah, put everything on hold just temporarily, but,
It's step.
That's
Yep.
the plan, so the
It's nice to
letter,
have that piece of
the letter
paper.
I had sent, I know I had
Baby
sent it to
steps.
Alex, but I'm not sure if I had
Tippy
sent
toes.
it to the rest of you, but what I had said, because these are things that we talked about, was dear counselors, the Fall River Historical Commission is in unanimous support of 2 recent proposals made by the Preservation Society of Fall River regarding the sale and/or demolition of city-owned properties. The current 6-month delay for city properties is too short of a time frame to find suitable alternatives to demolition, particularly when trying to find investors willing to purchase a larger property. As we've seen in our recent past, far too many of our historic properties are being lost to the wrecking ball, and every loss is a loss of part of the character of our beautiful city. It's also highly important that city properties over 50 years old should be considered for a preservation restriction deed as part of a sale agreement. We are currently seeing the unfortunate outcome of not having a preservation deed restriction on historic properties with the Nathaniel B. Borden School, which is about to be demolished. The city's master plan is very clear regarding the importance of preservation in our historic resources, and we now have the chance to move forward with that plan to ensure we keep our identity going into the future. Fall River is a unique and beautiful historic city, and it's vitally important to our continued success and future economic growth to preserve our assets now. So when I have a date for that, I will let you all know, and we can talk about that and what we want to discuss with the ordinance committee.
Excellent.
Can I just summarize that we don't have a date for that meeting, or are we waiting for the ordinance committee to establish a date for this meeting?
Yeah, we have to wait for the ordinance committee to set a date for the
Okay.
meeting, but they're waiting until after the new year once the
Right, right.
Administration.
I
Yeah.
know they have their own schedule, their own published schedule.
I'm not really sure when the ordinance committee meets, to be honest. I know.
I think it's usually before the council meetings.
Yeah, but I don't know that they meet every month. I think
Right,
they meet
right.
when they have reason to meet. I'm not sure that they have a set schedule, because I know when I talked to them about combining the 2 committees, when I called Steve Long, he said, we'll put it on the next agenda, but they didn't have a date, and then I got a call saying that they were
Okay.
gonna be meeting a few weeks after that, so I think they kinda do it as needed for that committee, so,
Yeah, particularly since we have another issue on demolition.
they know, yeah. They're aware, because we've spoke with the current administration about the importance of getting this done, so. Okay, citizen input, do we have anybody? Okay. Moving on, so notice of intent to demolish structures. We have Pilgrim Mill, 847 Pleasant Street, expired well over 2 years ago. Building is still standing, yay. So
Going into another decade.
until I hear otherwise, then we'll keep it on there, but it's, I'm glad.
Mm-hmm.
45 Morgan Street, the Nathaniel B. Borden School. I know that's on here. I put something in here. Oh, no, wait a minute. No, that's not it. Okay, so the time limit is up.
Mhm.
Do you, Alex, did you have anything you wanted to add? Do you have any updates or anything?
Not really, no, I don't think so.
Okay. As of right now, it's still standing. I had gone by several times. There's a couple of windows now missing. There were dumpsters behind it. They were actively moving things out. At one point, there was a backhoe on the property. I didn't see that the last couple of times I went, but they were moving everything out. There's still, if you look in the windows, you can still see a lot of stuff inside the building. It's standing as of now. As we know, they refused to speak with us, and Councilor Pelletier sent a letter saying that, in his opinion, they had exhausted all efforts, would not, I guess, allow us to meet again with the real estate committee from the way that the letter read, which I still completely disagree with, but it is what it is. So, right now, it's.
So the timeline that the Preservation Society had compiled and came before us a couple of months back, I'm not exactly sure when that took place, but I want it to be on record exactly what occurred, how it occurred, and the discrepancies with this particular sale with the administration that handled it. It's not, many of the current administrators, city councilors are not, were not part of it. But it doesn't mean that there wasn't, especially given the climate of our political concerns that we've had in the city, this particular one seemed to have been handled, like, not appropriately.
Right.
So I think that timeline, I think it's important for everyone to like read it and kind of keep in mind that something happened here. Yeah, so something happened here. It wasn't legit.
No.
Something dirty happened. And it needs to be on record and it needs to be looked at. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Do we want to put that on the agenda for January and really go, like, really do a whole full
That might be a
detailed
great
review of it?
idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
I can add two things too. Alexander Silva, 649 Alden Street, member of the Board of Directors of the Preservation Society. So just two things. One of the times I had went by the boarding school, I spoke to, I think, the foreman at the site, and I mean, don't take this at face value, but he said that there was so much stuff in the building that they wouldn't be able to knock it down until after the new year. So just so you're aware of all that. And in regards to the timeline, I had submitted a public records request for the purchase and sale agreement of the boarding school back in October, actually, and it hasn't been found by the city yet, so that should be something to be known. The law department, as I spoke with them, they mentioned that it's all new staff compared to when this sale went through in 2012, and they can't find it anywhere. I believe they might be still looking for it. I spoke with Judge Macy, and he said it could be there somewhere buried, but they didn't really have the hours dedicated to it. But yeah, so that's important because the conditions of the sale would have been on that purchase and sale agreement. I also did a public records request for the Osborne School sale, which happened the same time as the boarding school, and everything is ironed out in that purchase and sale agreement as to like the performance bond that the project was supposed to have and the timeline for it. So
They had all the information on the Osborne School that happened at the same time, but not the Borden School.
yes,
And they can't find it.
yeah, they can't find.
That's
There's only a
interesting.
quitclaim deed, which I believe is part of the timeline,
Huh.
but no purchase and sale, which would have the conditions of the sale to potentially save the building.
Interesting.
So I'll add that.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Well, so we will delve into more of the details and we'll discuss it a little more at length in the January. Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay, moving on. 64 Stevens Street, it's a bank drive-through building. It's the one that it's on the corner of Stevens and Brayton Avenue. And it's a little drive-through opposite where the bank is. It was built in the 90s. The reason I put this on here is because the building itself is not historic. And normally I would give a letter saying that the building is not on the city register, but the building itself sits in a historic district, which is the Quikichan Valley Mill District. And so I need to come before you so that you can all agree on this, and if we have anything to say on it.
This is where they want to put the gas station.
They it's a gas station, a convenience store, a car wash. Yeah, it's right opposite like the McDonald's and the Walmart and all of that. And like I said, it's not a historic building, but it's sitting in a historic district that is on our register, so we still have the purview
And does it
over it.
abut like residential homes?
It's very
Is that the one
close.
that-
It's close.
It's not too far, like there's the parking lot and then there's sort of a little road and then it's all the new builds, like the condos and houses that were all built down, like all in the
Mhm.
Stevens Street area, yeah.
Can we get a letter out to them just asking if we could review the proposed construction of the new building to see if we could get some historic highlights to that to keep with the neighborhood?
We can.
I mean, we could
I'm
try.
not sure that I don't know that he's gonna be willing. He's very antsy to get this done. He has not been pleasant to deal with. He's been very upset that we've already pushed it off a couple of times because we weren't able to meet. It does not sound like they're willing to.
What's gonna happen to that
Discuss this.
property? Is it up for sale after the demolition?
No, the people that wanna demolish it are the ones that own it. And they wanna build
A gas station.
A
the
couple of
gas
boxes.
station and the.
Oh, a gas station.
The
I
gas
see.
station, convenience store,
I
and
see.
car wash.
And they've gone before zoning and,
I believe they have.
What about the planning board and, which typically would solicit input from neighbors in that area? Is that,
I don't know what,
typically
What
if
they've
that
done
were
with their-
happening in my neighborhood,
I
the
know there are a
abutters
lot
would be
of.
called in to
Mhm.
ask for their opinion.
I know there are a lot of neighbors that don't like the project. You know, I've heard people complaining about this project that's going
I would
forward,
almost,
but
I would almost
But it's
send
a-
this over to the planning board for a recommendation,
Building's
if
built
that's
in the 1990s,
something that we can
right?
do.
the building was built sometime in the early nineties.
Then knock it down, in my opinion.
I mean, whatever they're gonna build, they have to get permission to build, and that's when they're
Yeah.
going to.
They do.
It's not a historic issue, really, it's more,
No.
it is a planning issue, and
Yeah.
that's something that needs to be taken up by a completely different.
Agreed.
And that's why
Yeah,
if we could just
yeah.
send a letter asking
Mhm.
that we could just sort of review and see if we could keep with the neighborhood, with the new structure. I agree. There's really nothing that we could even rationalize to do. It should, and it's, if you look at it, it's nothing, it's just take it down,
Yeah.
it's nothing exotic.
Right.
You know, it's nothing beautiful or historic or wood preserving, but if we could get on the other side now and say, look,
It
can we
sounds like
take a
the
look at it
concern
and
is
see if
the other
there's-
side.
Exactly, that's my concern.
Is what's gonna
Let's see what we
be,
can do
yeah.
with the new structure.
I think if we're gonna send that letter to the developer and or owner, same person, then like a copy of the letter needs to be sent to whatever board this would go, because really what we're trying to say is that we're hoping that this is gonna turn into something not atrocious, like visually atrocious.
Right.
So, sending just one, I would think that we'd want a carbon copy like the planning board and
Sure.
whatnot, just so that our intentions are known, that we're doing the due diligence, that, you know,
Yep.
our whole goal is just protecting historic districts and protecting the aesthetic of the city. And also, I mean,
And preserving that area, that.
yeah, preserving the area for the residents as well, because they really, I think another car wash slash gas station slash convenience store isn't the first thing we need on the list
They've already
here.
insulted the neighborhood by tearing down the granite mill that was there, and now we have a huge, shopping area, a big store that's just empty,
Mhm.
and then you have
And
Walmart.
a traffic
and
issue.
you have, yeah,
Mhm.
they've already insulted it enough, so.
And again, this is one of the reasons why I think it's important that we do have more input as far as things that go before the planning board, and I think the planning board needs to have a little more concern with the master plan for the city. You're the planning board, you should be following the master plan, which really does take into account historic preservation in the city, and
But I agree with Larry, I think we should just send them a letter letting them know that, that they can demolish it. I mean, that's the only thing that's really under our,
So they, but we ask
mhm.
For
that
some consideration.
they be,
Mhm.
as,
Sure.
you know, sensitive to
Mhm.
the, to
And
the historic
like
nature.
Patty
of this.
said, to CC the planning board, so when they go before the planning board,
And
that,
that's how we can start to have more input with other boards in part of this administration or part of the municipality of Fall River, is that we just make our intentions known, the things that concern us, and that's all we can do is have things entered into record and hope that somebody's gonna be like, oh wow, they're paying attention to other things, like maybe we should collaborate like Mr. Gallagher's doing,
Right.
you know, so that, I think that's all you really can do. I mean, I
Yep.
think we've gotten to a point where everybody's so siloed, nobody even really knows that everybody's doing the same thing, kind of, working on the same projects, so.
Okay, and that's what we'll do. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. All right, so moving on, we have a request for a demo at 1620 Bedford Street, which is the Water Maintenance Administration Building. I did send you the email about this because there are several buildings on the property. And so I explained that it's all listed under one address on the register. And the address is 1620 Bedford Street. So,
mhm.
Paul Ferland said the building that will be raised is actually 1620 Bedford Street as assigned by the city. The other buildings are identified with other street numbers. So he said to identify it, he would call it 1620 Bedford Street Water Maintenance Administration Building. Now, when you go down, it's the brick building on the left-hand side, the first building that you see. I think it may have been built in the 60s. It's up on the left-hand side. It's not one of the historic structures, the ones that are going down.
Any of the granite
It's the more modern. What's that?
Not any of the granite.
No, it's not one of
structures.
the granite structures. But on the register, and this is something that I'm finding because we're gonna talk about this at another thing that comes up in here. There are addresses on the register for properties that are not accurate. So at some point, we have to correct this. So one of the things that we can do is I can talk with Paul Ferland and get the actual addresses of the other buildings as they're listed, and then we can re-vote those onto the register under the correct addresses. But this one, just this one building that they're looking to demolish, that's what they're looking for, the letter for, and that's the 1620.
Did they say why they put it in
I
plans?
think they're putting something else there. I mean, obviously they're doing a lot of work with the historic properties
Mhm.
because they're going for CPA funds for different things, so, you know. I mean, they've been pretty good with being sensitive to the historic buildings on the property. So anyway, that's what they're looking for, the letter just for that one building.
It's nothing exotic there, so I would,
It's a brick building.
yeah, I would make a motion to send them the letter. Let it get demolished.
Okay, so I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So next up is was the building at 155, 157 Rodman Street. It was a garage, I did send that
Yep.
to you. We really, I mean, the building inspector did send us a letter, and it was his directive that the building had to come down because it was unsafe. I had gone out to look at it with him. The thing really was leaning they hadn't taken care of it. The owner didn't have the funding to put into that, didn't want to, and he deemed that it was,
I looked at it too, it was.
had to come, it was
gone.
really, it
Yeah.
was really in some
Yeah.
sad shape. So it is down,
Oh.
but just to be aware. So this was one of the ones where we really didn't have a lot of say. He was giving us a chance to go by, see it, just on the off chance that we had something to say, but he had already deemed that it was not structurally sound and it was an imminent danger.
I did like Larry, I think it was you, Larry, that had made a suggestion about people who might be interested in old barns,
Sure.
which I think is great, and I didn't know that those
Yeah.
people existed, but I should have known that they do.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to get, like, if you have like those tidbits of people, I'd love to collect those in a list, because having those resources is great, because when people find out I'm on the commission, sometimes they'll ask me questions and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to go ask people who know more than I do, and it would be great. I think it's fascinating that I know that there are people who restore houses, but people who take old barns, I mean, that's great.
Yeah,
It would be great to be able to have that information to say to somebody, I know you don't have the funds to take care of this, but maybe we can hook you up with somebody who can. So, and it's just nice to not just have one option, down or up. To have another option is always nice to offer somebody, so.
The problem with this was he had given them such a small timeline to do it, because I think it was gonna be the following week, it had to be down or something, November 1st. So
That's not realistic. That wasn't really
Yeah,
realistic.
it was
And I think
pretty fast,
unfair
but-
Oh, absolutely.
to,
I mean, if it was such a danger, then, you know, like what, it must have been there for quite some time, and it was just all of a sudden it had to come down, so.
I'm not sure why
What the
it
reason
had to, or, you know, if he had done anything in the past to try and get them to do
Yeah.
something about it, but that was the letter that I received.
That's obviously not normal, that
The
they just.
confines were rather tight, so that if it would burn or it would have caused probably damage to
It
the
would have,
surrounding
because it
area.
was very close
Yes.
to the other buildings, it's in
Yeah,
it's in
yeah.
a tight area.
And it was in pretty
But-
bad shape, and I hear what you're saying, and Patty, quite often people want just the lumber that's in there. Some of the
Yeah.
materials are great, and they reuse, it's for reuse, but this building was
It was,
really bad.
It
Yeah.
was like, when you looked at it, you had to stand sideways.
The materials were poor.
yeah, oh, so
Building
there was nothing salvageable.
No, the bugs had gotten into this building so badly, it was,
I just love like the top of it,
yeah.
and the hoist and
mhm.
It's, but the thing is, if we could have a list like that, we could maybe get to places before they get to that point and say, hey, you know, but that's also keeping an eye out for these.
Or even just, that's why we have our social media. I mean, that's where people go, I mean, I look at the fall boards, people are on the internet all day in this city, so. I mean, this is some good content, or like, you know, you have an old barn, you have something you don't want, people are constantly getting rid of things, so it's just it's just another way to disseminate information.
Could we talk to Carrie and have her put that on our website? I know she's not here this evening, but put it on our website if people are interested, picking up on what you're saying, that they could put their names with our commission, but being able to read that on our site.
Absolutely.
That type of individual is prone to look at, historic commission, let's see what's on the site, and they could read that and get themselves listed, so that's a
And
good
it does
idea.
happen because, you know, that house that was on North Main Street in a Sonnet that was moved to Martha's Vineyard, and it recently they posted pictures of it. I mean, they moved it onto an island
Everything's
and
possible.
restored it. It looks amazing, so
That's pretty great.
it happens.
Yeah, so if we could get it on our website, that might assist in your thoughts.
Mhm.
And if you wanna also put something like that on our, Facebook
I'll add it
page.
to the list of
Mhm.
social media things.
okay.
Mhm.
So we had gotten a request for demo of the old gas station at 1101 North Main Street, which was not on our list. That thing is down. It was such a nice one.
It was.
So that's down.
That's
Okay.
the northeast section
Yes.
adjacent to Morton, because there's two gas stations
Yeah,
there.
the one more.
The one that's been
forever,
vacant
yeah.
for quite some
Yeah.
time.
It looks so nice without that building there. When you,
It
it looks
is.
like a whole new corner, and it
Yeah.
bums me out that I know they're gonna put
So
something
who
else
won?
there.
Another fuel station.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just looks so nice.
It
You can
is?
finally see how nice
Yeah.
the school looks. I had no idea how nice that building was until that was gone, so.
They've gone before the boards, they're attempting to take the newer fuel station, make a convenience store also, but push it closer to the Morton School property and up into that corner, because there was a lot of vacant land behind
Yeah.
and on the side of the original building.
Mm.
So they want to just move that over, but it's another fuel station that's
Yeah.
going.
So when that is demolished, that corner becomes public school property?
No.
Mm-mm.
No?
No, that's private
it's
property.
private
It's still gonna be
property.
private property?
Yeah, somebody bought it and it's still private property.
And the city of Fall River did not buy it, so it was a private offer.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's unfortunate because that property really looks like it belongs to a school department function rather than a commercial.
They wanted a lot of
Function.
money
I know.
for that property. And
I
don't
know
think the
they
city had the
do.
money.
I know they waited a long time to sell it, to get their price.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, old business, so we did ask Al Lima to clarify, more about the possible CPA project to do Form Bs of Steep Brook and East Fall River. He asked, because of the inclement weather, if he could be pushed to January. So we are going to push this to the January agenda. Next, 1 Weaver Street Historic Smokestack and update. I did receive a letter, which I also responded to the letter, from Beauregard, Burke, and Franco Law Office. And it said, notice of intent to demolish structure. Dear Madam Chairperson, my office represents A. Audiello Company and Stanley Street Treatment and Resources, Inc. for purposes of this notice. Pursuant to Fall River City Ordinance, Section 38-111, this is notice to the Chair of the Fall River Historic Commission that A. Audiello Construction of Cranston intends to apply on behalf of the owner for a permit to demolish the smokestack listed in the Fall River Register of Significant Structures as being located at 1 Weaver Street, under the historic name Border City Mills, Mill Number 3, very truly yours. So I did send a letter in response, letting him know that there was an automatic 6-month delay on the property and that we would like to meet with a representative to talk about alternatives to demolition. As of yet, I have not heard back. I'm not sure that I will.
What would would you consider an alternative, like moving the smokestack somewhere else?
No, building around
building
it,
around it.
incorporating it into
Correct.
the plan, which it's not, and
Mhm.
I do have, Mr. Dias does have a little more insight into this,
Okay.
so I've asked him to come and give us a little bit of an update, because I know he's been working also on his end in the neighborhood group with this, so.
Thank you. Tony Dias, 492 June Street, and I'm also a member of the North End Neighborhood Association. So where the smokestack is situated is basically right on the edge of the property, and it looks like it's only taking maybe half dozen parking spaces. So that's how it lays out in their current plan. But the reason that I really wanted to come here and talk to you all is in November, I forget the date, the building inspector sent the contractor for Star a letter letting them know that that building permit was temporarily suspended due to 2 reasons. One, they hadn't provided a plan for how they're going to clean the contaminants from the site, because obviously there was a lot of asbestos, leads, and things like that, and they were just planning to go in there and haul it away like they typically do. So he's asking them to provide a plan for how they're going to remove the remains of the mill. That's one piece. The second piece is the smokestack. And he's basically telling them that they had to submit a letter to you all notifying, obviously, their intention to demolish the structure. The thing that the North End neighborhood wants to make very clear is our interpretation of what your Chapter 38 historical guidelines states is that no permit for demolition or anything is to be issued until after the 6 months. So the fact that there is a building permit that is technically still active doesn't sit well with us. And the building code is very clear that if a city ordinance is in opposition to the permit, then the permit is void. So we're of a position, because your Chapter 38 ordinance requires no permit be issued until the 6-month guideline, that building permit should be void. And what we're looking to do is ask you, if you could, on our behalf, to submit a letter to the building department, and I'm more than happy to reference what section of the building code talks about violations and being against ordinances, because it's very important for us that the building permit be removed. Because right now, in a suspended case, we are limited time-wise on how we can appeal what they're planning on doing there. So, yes.
Well, in the letter that I sent back to him, I did put, because the property is listed in the Register of Significant Structures, there's an automatic 6-month demolition delay. The delay will be in effect until May 25th, 2020. After that date, your clients, A. Audiello Construction Company and Stanley Street Treatment and Resources, Inc., can apply for a demolition permit.
Yeah, that's great. That's
So
going
that's-
to
And it did,
Star.
I did send a copy to the building
Okay.
inspector as well.
Yeah, so anything that you can do to reinforce that
Yep, that letter went to the building
would be very helpful.
inspector as well. I don't know if you need a separate letter, but I did put that in there, that after that date, they can apply for a building permit.
So I think what I'll do is, if I can get a copy of that letter, I will submit it as part of my appeal to show that there's clearly a ordinance and it's in violation, and you've brought that up, so that will be very helpful for us. Any other questions for me?
So I just have a clarification. This contentious area really comes down to parking lot spaces?
The
The
the smokestack
is
itself,
occupying an area that
parking,
the
yes.
Star Center thinks is necessary for parking.
Right, 6 spaces. Well, considering they're gonna have 700 to 1,000 people coming in within a 4-hour period to get methadone, they need every space they get. And the fact that there's the marijuana distribution center right across the street, and they're gonna be opening up this month. So it's gonna be a nightmare of traffic. So I can see why they want those 6 parking spots, but, you know, my belief is you forcing them to reject that building permit is really forcing them to come before you, you know, to see if they can get their project going, and just giving up those 6 parking spaces. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's right up against the property line.
Yeah, I understand the long-term effort made by the neighborhood association here, and so much of what you say and so much of that traffic
Yes.
located there seems to be answered in the rest of the city. I mean, how many more places do you need for methadone distribution? And I understand you've done all that, so I'm just repeating a lot of those arguments, but
Yeah.
when we're looking at that kind of balance, it's interesting to me that it wasn't supported by other
Right.
municipal organizations.
There's also a bunch of abutters that we've spoken to that are very concerned because there's never been a traffic study done of the area. And we know that there's 2 sites. One site, which is the Pine Truss place where they make the trusses. They've bought a property at Airport Road, so they plan to develop this site and put 192 units in
Senior
there, a
apartment.
6 or 8 story building. Another property closer to the railroad tracks, right behind this site, is putting up 2 buildings, 5 stories each, of 75 units. So there's no traffic study for this entire area.
There's also gonna be another mill that will probably be coming down and something else going up in its place.
Yeah, so that's for another day. So there's a whole lot of issues there. So
Okay.
we're looking to buy some time because there's a lot of complexity here. And anything that you can do would be very helpful.
Well, we don't want the historic smokestack to come down.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely not.
I know for a fact that other smokestacks in other places generate about $75,000 a year in
Mhm.
fees to Verizon,
Right.
the FBI. So it's a money generating thing.
It is.
I researched that as well, and I know that a couple of years ago, the Historical Commission presented that argument that the smokestack would bring in an income and that it was a viable historic piece.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it just, again, brings us back to what the city values
Yep.
and what our history is important. What kind of history do we want to keep and teach?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
There was one item here before I leave having to do with the Cherry and Webb building, and sorry to take it out of, it is in the register. It's just a different address.
The wrong address, that was one of the things that we need to correct, so.
Yeah, it's the address that the Historical
know.
Commission sees. All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what, I already talked to Mr. Fiola about that. Thank you, Mr. Dias. Okay, so moving on, Historic District Commission merger, that is again on hold until after the new administration is sworn in. I did speak with Monica in the mayor's office,
great.
and
She
she.
gets things done.
Yeah, she does. And she said that, and I talked with her and with Sid in the mayor's office, the mayor's secretary, and they both said that yes, it is definitely on the agenda and that Cliff was aware of it. They have kind of a short list of things that are more imminent to do, and we are on that short list of getting stuff done early in the new year, so we'll see where that goes. PowerPoint presentation for neighborhood groups, I honestly haven't set anything up right now, just with the holidays and all of this other stuff going on, so I haven't, but that's something we
January
still
sounds
have.
like a good time
Yeah,
to
yeah, January,
good about
February.
2020.
recoup your 2020.
Yeah, after everything. So, but I mean, we've reached out to several, and I think that that's good, and we've got the social media thing going, and then we have something else
Mhm.
coming up about social media, which will help as well. So anyway,
Mhm.
moving on to new business.
Excuse me, just sorry to interrupt, but my dad just recently purchased a house on High Street, and I just don't really know how this works. They told us that we needed to come here.
Mhm.
Yep, that's the meeting right after this one. We
Okay.
still have to finish this meeting, and then
Sure.
yours is after that. Normally, it starts at, no,
Okay.
that's fine. Normally, it starts at 7, but if we have a lot on the agenda, because we weren't able to
Okay.
meet for a couple of months, and that's why it's longer.
Thank you.
So you are on our agenda, though.
Okay.
So I am the Historical Commission representative to the Community Preservation Committee, and my term is now just expired. So we need to nominate someone to be the representative to the Community Preservation Committee.
The question is, do you want to get reelected?
I'm fine with doing it. I have no problem still doing it.
I make a motion to, Kristen.
I second
Yep.
All in
Okay.
favor?
that.
Aye.
That was quick.
Thanks. No, because also we're right in the middle of now the new funding thing, so.
Yeah.
No explanation needed, you've done a great job, and I think you know a lot about it, so, and I think the work of the CPC is awesome, so might as well keep it going.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your faith in me.
Well, we didn't say anything.
Then I'm not doing it and you will. We need to schedule our meeting dates. I need to send those down to Allison, the clerk, for 2020. So do we want to keep it as the third Tuesday of the month? And do we still want to keep it at 6:30 and 7? Would you,
I think 6.
I like 6, I was
6
glad that you said,
o'clock?
because,
Okay.
Agreed.
you know,
I kind of,
I get sleepy.
Yeah,
yeah.
6:30 is getting, is that
Yeah.
okay?
Oh,
Not
It'll be
okay?
fine.
you sure?
Once a month.
Yeah.
We'll bring snacks.
Okay. All right. Deal.
Deal. Okay, so, so 6 and then 6:30 for the second meeting. And then hopefully when the two are combined and it's just the one meeting, then we don't have to deal with the two. But I will, so the third Tuesday is still okay?
Mhm.
Yes? Okay. All right, awesome. Okay, so nominations, revisions to the Fall River Register of Significant Structures. So the first thing is 139 South Main Street, the Cherry and Webb Building, which Mr. Dice was correct. It is on the register,
Mhm.
but it is on there as a different number. It's 2 something.
Weird.
It's two numbers, 251 to 255
Is that
or
because of the
something like that.
changes that have occurred on
I
something?
don't think so. I think it's always been 139. I'm not sure why it was listed that way. But it just has completely the wrong address.
So can we
But-
correct it?
But it says Cherry and Webb Building.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
so let's correct
we
it.
can correct that address.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Now, the other thing, so 602 3rd Street, which is the Corky Row Club.
Yep.
602 to 608 3rd Street is on the register. It's actually
Yep.
a tenement, but this specifically is a little building, and if you, so that I do have a letter, an email in here from Mr. Fiola, Ken Fiola. He sent the letters on both properties, and I did explain to him that the Cherry Webb Building actually is on there, just under a different number, but that we would discuss that at the meeting. So, so the Corky Row, it actually says it was 1982. It's actually 1932.
I was gonna say 1980.
Yeah, it's a typo. So this is the current Corky Row Club, and it's a little building, and it was built in 1932, and it is a landmark in that community, and it may not be the most
No, it's totally
historically
great.
significant, but it is historically significant, not architecturally, but for what it does
Absolutely.
in the community, and I think that absolutely that separate building really should be on our list as its own
I totally agree.
separate entity.
Okay.
So can I get a motion?
I'll make a
to-
motion that we take the Corky Row Club listed at 602 3rd Street and listed on the Fall River Register of Significant Structures as its own entity, separate from the 602 to 608.
Okay, so I have a motion.
And I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Awesome, motion carries. So next up, the CPC project that's in the works for the preservation guidelines, which is the book that they're putting together. They're looking for a volunteer. They need one from the Historical Commission and one from the Historic District Commission. This is the person who is putting the book together, who comes up from, is it Pennsylvania, I believe?
Philly.
Yeah,
Philly.
Philadelphia.
and putting the book together and is looking for people to work with her as a little subcommittee while she's gathering all the information to see what things are important to us, what it is that we want to make sure is included, and I guess to run ideas by us as well, and, you know, just people to work with her as far as what we feel is the most important things and what needs to be included. And I mean, she knows as far as on her end, the types of architecture, things like that, but just more of where we stand with it. So she wants a representative from us, and then in the next meeting, we'll talk about that as well. So, would anyone like to be on that subcommittee? Because I think
I'm free enough that I can do that, and I would like to do that.
On the next committee, I would volunteer. I'm very interested.
okay,
This is a very
good. So then you're gonna have to-
important project.
Yes,
okay.
it is.
Well, the thing is though, how often are you going to be away? I'm just.
I'm leaving this year. I'll be in Honduras from January the 28th till March the 9th. Otherwise, I'll be around.
Okay. I'm not sure. Do you know when she's gonna be here? Because I thought it was sometime after, like in the new year. Or do you know? No.
Well, look, if you want to get on that, go for it.
No, but I mean, I can volunteer at the next one unless somebody else wants it.
Well, Rick can volunteer on the next one too.
Yeah.
Oh, are you on the next one too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's
Which
on board.
one's next? On
Easter.
this?
The district.
From the district.
We need one from each.
Yeah,
I want to
either
volunteer
one.
from the district.
You want the district?
Okay, so
Then
you'll-
get the
okay.
district, then I'll
All right,
be the
so
commissioner.
I'm
It's
option
okay.
for that.
Yes, then go
Okay.
for it. It's yours. I'll
right,
make
so
a
you-
motion.
We
that you just
can't.
voted.
We're not in that, we're not in that meeting yet. Okay, so Rick is our volunteer. Is everybody okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you. Now the last item that we have scheduled here is, besides open discussion, is ideas for community outreach / social media flyers, pamphlets, and a historic commission logo. And I'm gonna turn this over to Patty Rego, who has been doing a lot of work on this.
So I did not make copious copies, but I did give one, and Kristen, I showed it to Larry and Ruben, if you want to pass it that way. So I just came up with a couple of them, and they're just standard size social media graphics that I could use on our, we don't have an Instagram, which could be something that we do.
We could have an Instagram, we could do an Instagram.
We could, so, because I use Hootsuite anyway, and so I cross-publish on things. So, so basically, I just took a couple of the themes that we talked about.
I'm gonna just show the logo.
Oh, sure.
because I really love this logo. I'm gonna show it.
And it's, I mean, it wasn't
See-
necessarily that I felt that we needed a
But
logo.
I think it's simple, but it's effective, I think. See, like the sort of recycle sort of logo built into a building, and I really like that.
If you're gonna use
You
this
shouldn't use the
picture,
ugly house logo.
no, if you're gonna use this picture, you need to take a new one because its
Yeah, I know.
crown is on.
That's the old, that, I took
Yes.
that, I think, last
so
year in the
so
summer.
I can make so one of the slogans is once a building is gone, it's gone forever, and it's got some buildings that are no longer with us. I also kind of did a play on, like I want to do a whole series of Did You Know? Because there's a lot of things people don't know about what we do, and one of them is that we can help provide financial value of historic preservation by helping you to get funding and just provide some guidance. So it's also an invitation to join us at our meetings. And I think if anybody has photographs, what I really need is photographs and some information on different properties that I could feature. Kristen gave me access to hers, but I'll take whatever you have. And then another one, this is probably one of my favorites, is just talking about success stories. So this one's Commonwealth Landing, how it went from being a mill to now it's a mixed-use space. We have a college there, we have commerce, education, business, and the whole idea is preservation makes sense. So they're just different, they're just more visual ways instead of just us posting words or reposting. I mean, I love the Historic Preservation Society's post, and we often repost, but I think this is a way for us to kind of, you know, put a little visual and get some of our messaging out. And during the meeting today, I was actually making some notes on things that we could do. One of them being, I know we talk a lot about this master plan, and it sounds so ominous, and I'm sure it is, but
It's big, it's not ominous,
yeah.
it's awesome. It
so
is
I wonder if
great.
we could
Yeah.
just kind of distill that into some major points, because I'm working with a couple other groups in the city, and it's truly, working within a municipality or in the government in general, there's a lot of paperwork, and it's daunting, and people, you know, automatically think, oh, it's not worth it. So if we can just kind of, and with the master plan, if we can kind of take out a couple points, especially points that pertain to us, I think people would get on board if they knew that this was something that we're supposed to be doing.
Well, the problem with the master plan is we have this great master plan, and it really is. There was so much work that went into this, so many great ideas. And I think you have people, even elected officials, you have people working in the city that either don't know about the master plan, or they don't read it, they don't follow it, they don't consult it. And that's always been a big problem,
And
is
then when you
have
change
it and then-
administration and then you have somebody with another idea now, so now whatever plan was in place and in motion now gets stopped, and a new plan gets put in place. And like you said, it was a lot of people, professionals, locals, that created this plan.
So I
And
think
if you had a master plan, it just makes sense that it doesn't change every time an administration.
Of course, every administration's gonna come in with like their own
You
agenda
can-
and their own
you
set,
can have
but there has to be a
ideas,
guiding
but-
force, and that's what the master
And
plan is,
that's
to my
what it is,
understanding.
and no one hardly ever uses it.
So if
and
there,
it-
if somebody would like to work with me on like just, I mean, literally, it's gotta be digestible for
I don't
social
mind doing
media.
that because I have the master plan and I'm, like, that's one of my things.
So
I
that
think
could
that's
be
one of
like
my
the type
biggest
of
pet
thing.
peeves is nobody uses it, and that drives me nuts,
So that could be, the type of thing, or like, you know, the 3 types of funding that you can get. People might not even understand that, they might be just be thinking tax credits, but not thinking, you know, something going before the CPC.
CPA, yeah.
And again, this, I kind of enjoy doing this because it's teaching me a lot too. I don't know a lot about this. I think that, you know, a lot of you have been doing this for a long time, so this is like second nature to you, and
But we've all had to learn it.
Yes,
I mean,
so
it's a process.
I think
We
it's
don't-
I think it's a nice way for us to unpack this knowledge that, and especially the knowledge that you all have, that you've taken a long time to amass this information, and if we can kind of disseminate that in a more forward-facing, a little bit easier way for this public to digest, maybe we could like start to get a little bit more support. Another thing too, maybe publishing a link to the Historic Register lives online.
Yep.
So I could publish a link to that, you know, saying the benefits of, you know, how it's not, we're not gonna tell you what to do with your house, it's just a way to, you know, to be on the list. And,
Right.
and then one other thing I thought we could do, I know we don't always, it's not always possible because our agendas, we sometimes get them just like the day before, but I would love to post the agenda and be able to put like a couple of the things that we're talking about, that way if people would like to come, we could have more citizen input. I mean, I'm not saying that we have this huge following that people are gonna be like waiting for the agendas, but we could probably pick up a couple.
The agenda actually is on the city website.
It is, yeah, but have you been on the city website trying to find things?
No, yeah, but
You know what I
I
mean?
know where to look for it, but like when you go to the calendar,
Yeah.
if you click on us on the calendar, our agenda's always on there. So, like, as long as you can get to the calendar.
I mean, I
you
think
can
as
get
soon
to
as you
our
send
agenda.
it to me too, I'll just, even if it's
No,
that
that's
day.
great.
Because we meet at 6, we're gonna be
Yeah.
meeting at 6 o'clock, that's plenty of time,
Yeah.
social media wise.
Usually the reason I don't submit the agenda long in advance is because up until I submit, I'm adding more stuff. Like I have something right here, it's a new thing for open discussion that I just got on Friday afternoon after I already submitted the agenda. So I'm just gonna give you guys a heads up on this, but it's not something we can discuss.
Alright,
But we'll
posting the
discuss it next
agenda the
time, but
day
yeah.
of is the perfect thing, because, I mean, there are people around who's like,
Yeah, no, we just, I mean, I submit it, I
Yeah.
have to do it 2 business days before, so usually I submit the agenda on a Thursday to make sure that we're all set for the Tuesday, because sometimes you know, if there's a glitch or whatever and I need the extra day, but usually the Thursday is when I submit it, the Thursday before our meeting, so. I'll just make sure.
So I'd like to be a little more proactive, and I mean, and granted, I know we're all super busy and whatnot, but if there's ever a time that I can't post it, I'll kick it over to somebody else who has admin rights, but I'd like to be a little more proactive about, like, letting the public know what we do here on Tuesdays, every third Tuesday of the month, and, cause I mean, there are.
We can put our minutes too, just so people have that, because we have minutes and.
Because I mean, instead of just commenting on posts on Fall River, grew up in Fall River or whatnot, commenting about why bother with old buildings, come here and we'll let you know why we bother with old buildings. So I think it would be like a nice invitation. So I'll be working on those and I'll circulate, and like I said, all ideas, pictures.
If there's things you want me to take pictures of, just tell me and I'll go take them.
Okay. I don't know yet, but now I know.
Think about it. Okay, well, thank you
You're welcome.
for that. Open discussion, does anyone have anything?
Yeah, I do, because I don't see on the agenda this letter regarding demolition of 140 A Street.
I'm going to talk about that right now, because that's something that just came in, so I could not put it on the agenda in time.
Well,
So,
if you like, I'll start the discussion.
well, I was gonna start the discussion because we cannot discuss it. It's not on the
Okay.
agenda, it's just something that I'm putting out there as an FYI. We will discuss it at the next meeting. I haven't even had a chance to respond to it
Okay.
as of yet, but I did receive notification from the owner of the Sagamore Mill number 1 that's located at 140 A Street, that it is their intent to demolish the structure. He said they've looked at the option of trying to rehab the property, but because it's in such disrepair, the cost would prohibit such a task. So their intent is to construct an industrial/commercial industrial park to help service the business and commercial communities of Fall River. So I will be responding to that. I didn't receive it until Friday afternoon, and it was, the agenda was already submitted, and I didn't even have time to update our agenda.
It'll give us time to like look at
So-
the area and get a
Yeah,
little bit more
so we
information.
will put that on the next agenda, and we will be discussing that, and as soon as I have the letter and I send him the letter, I will also send a copy to all of you and to all interested parties. So, yeah.
I do have one thing for open discussion that just popped into my head when we were talking about our historical commission representative on the CPC. Whatever happened to us being on the park board?
That's another thing that we have on our agenda to discuss with the new mayor.
Okay.
Because we have not forgotten about that, and we definitely need representation, especially because when you were saying, like you said that and something that Mr. Gallagher said,
About working together?
well, not just about working together, but where he was saying that Kennedy Park is under the purview of the park board, but in actuality, there is some bone of contention there, because the historic parks that have received
Yep.
state funding, they've received Mass Historic grant funding, put them under us as the historical commission once they receive historic
Credits or
funding.
funds.
Then it is no longer supposed to be the park board, it is the historical commission. So that's something that we have to discuss, and the park board has not wanted to acknowledge that fact, but it is a fact, and it's on more than one park. So,
2020.
just something that we have to talk about in
Table
the
it to
future, why we
2020.
need somebody. And for the cemeteries, we don't want it to happen again,
No.
what happened with Oak Grove Cemetery, and
Yeah.
that was the whole reason we had a historical representative to the park board, because not just for the parks, but specifically, somebody was put on there when the whole debacle happened at Oak Grove Cemetery, and then the mayor, the former mayor, removed
Yep.
me.
Still like the current mayor,
Well,
I think.
whatever he is.
Don't we have an
We
acting?
have an acting mayor, so
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, the acting mayor is the mayor.
There's a handful of days left to this year, so.
Yeah, so this is again something that hopefully we can meet early on in the new administration and explain, you know, where we're coming from and what needs to be done, so.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to the new administration and a great opportunity for us to,
I think we all do.
yeah, to keep it moving.
Okay,
I make a motion to adjourn.
I have oh, wait.
Oh.
Our next scheduled meeting will be held Tuesday, January 21st at
6 o'clock.
probably 6 p.m. if we can change that, in this room. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Second it.
Larry always seconds.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.